Many good podcast teachers and podcasters will tell you that it's not the gear that matters, it's the person behind it and the content that's being delivered. And they are, of course, absolutely right. The gear does not make the podcaster, but you do need some gear. So let's get that sorted now so that by the time it arrives, we're then ready to turn it all on. So we start with a microphone. And why do you need a mic? You've got a phone, you've got a laptop or a desktop computer, especially if you've got a laptop or an iMac, it's got an inbuilt microphone. Why do we need to get a specific one? Well, our job as makers of persuasive content is to deliver our message from the ear to the brain to the heart. Now, the best way to go from ear to brain is to make our content as distraction free as possible. If we can hear background noise, if we can hear what we call room tone, or if we can hear reverb, what you might think of as echo, that's distracting. And it also means that you don't sound as close to the listener as we want. And that's what we're hoping to achieve here. We want to get you up nice and close so that you really sound like you're nestling in the listener's ears. And that is the key to building trust with your listeners. So there's a couple of different types of mic that we can explore. We've got condenser microphones and dynamic microphones. So a condenser mic it offers a kind of bright, it tends to have a brighter sound to it, is the best way I can describe it. It picks up a lot more of the sound around it. So you don't necessarily have to be like bang on in front of the microphone in order for it to sound okay. You're still going to end up sounding a little bit reverby, but it will still pick you up and it will sound quite nice and crystal clear with that sort of brightness to it. A dynamic microphone, on the other hand, has a lot of noise rejection. So what that means is that if you are not dead center right on microphone, very quickly you will find that the volume of your voice dips dramatically. That's great if you're recording in a noisy environment or if you are in a room like I am that's got a lot of hard surfaces. I'm talking to you and directly in front of me is a hard monitor with a lot of glass and metal and plastic. That's not great for what we need, but it's the situation I have. So I'm using a dynamic mic. One of the other reasons I use a dynamic mic is because it has a warmer sound. So we talked about that bright sort of crisp sound that a condenser microphone has. A dynamic mic tends to have a warmer sound, and it's much more like what you're going to hear when you hear a radio DJ. It's also the kind of mic you will have seen if you've ever done karaoke. It's that standard, you know what a mic looks like. It's that kind of thing with a big round head, knobbly head thing that you sing into. That is a dynamic mic usually. So the easiest way to sound like a pro, to get that lovely sense that you are nestling into the listener's ears when they pop you in their headphones, is to get really nice and close to the mic. And we do that by putting our fist in front of our mouths and then moving in front of the microphone. Now, depending on the microphone you've got, there will be different address points, as in the point of the microphone that you speak into. If you're unsure, usually a rule of thumb is to look at the logo, and usually you're speaking into the logo on the microphone. Otherwise, if that's not clear to you, or if it doesn't sound right, just take a look at the packaging, because there's usually a face of someone speaking into the microphone. So do that rather than look at sort of YouTube videos and things, because there are often slightly misleading videos there, because not everyone knows how to use a microphone. But a good rule of thumb is to get your fist, kiss your fist, make, literally just fist in front of your face, and then put that fist on the microphone head or as close to it as you can. And it's that distance that you want. Obviously, you're not going to start speaking like that because it's not going to sound good. But that is a good rule of thumb for the distance that you want to have between you and the microphone. Another way is you can get a couple of fingers and put those fingers between your mouth and the microphone head. And if you're just a couple of fingers apart, then you tend to be about the right distance from the mic. So it's probably a lot closer than you might think. Now, I've got two microphones that I recommend. One of them is a condenser mic, the other is a dynamic mic. Now, they both plug into your computer using a USB cord. A quick caveat on that is if you've got a more of a modern computer with a USB-C port and no USB-A port, remember USB-A are the slightly longer ones, and those are the ones where you get it, you always get it wrong the first time you plug it in, and you have to turn it the other way around, and then somehow it's wrong again, and then you turn it back and it's right. That's USB-A. If you've got a like a MacBook Pro from 2017 onwards that's only got USB-C ports, then you'll need to pick up an adapter if you don't have one already, or a dongle, because both of these microphones use USB-A, the old school USB plugs. So the first one I will recommend is the Rode NT USB. It will go for about $160 US on Amazon, and it is a really great starter condenser microphone. I've used this professionally. I've used it. One of the reasons I like this is because you can use it for podcasting and it will sound pretty okay, but you can also use it for Zoom calls and you'll sound better than anyone else on your Zoom call. And that, you'll be surprised how often that comes up, and that matters. People enjoy it. So yeah, do look into the Rode NT USB. Now, the one lovely thing about this is that it's got a pop shield. If you can see that thing there where it says Rode in big letters, that is a pop filter. So speaking into that, putting your lips as close to that as possible without touching it, means that when you start popping peas, they're not going to explode all over the listener's eardrums because they'll be caught by the mesh that's in front of the microphone. So absolutely keep that intact. The less than lovely thing about this microphone is that weird little stand with its weird little stubby legs. Because you want to get the mic as close to your face as possible, I would recommend getting a big book or a board game. I've been known to prop my microphone on its stand on top of a board game to just give it that extra little bit of height. The other microphone that I recommend is the Samson Q2U, which is significantly cheaper and also quite interesting in that this has two different styles of connector. You can plug in a USB cord that you get that's available in the packaging. You can also plug in an XLR cable. Now, XLR is that three-pronged thing. Again, if you've done karaoke, you will have seen that trailing out of the bum of the microphone. The XLR connection is what would allow you then to plug your microphone into something like a handheld recorder, which we will cover a little bit later. If you want to record in person with someone, or you want to take your podcast out on the field and do some investigative reporting or whatever, then you want to have a nice handheld microphone. And the great thing about the Samson Q2U is it works equally well plugged into a handheld recorder or via XLR, or via the USB cable plugged in directly to your computer. It is a dynamic mic, so again you need to be right up close to it, and you might also notice that knobbly head. Now, the problem with the knobbly head is if we think about those popping peas again, those are going to explode all over the microphone. So what we need to include in our shopping list is a little pop filter or a pop shield or a windsock. Any of those terms will essentially apply, and you can pick these. You can pick up 5 for under a tenner. They're just bits of foam. That's all they are. They're just little bits of foam that will fit over the head of your microphone. That's exactly what I'm speaking into now. I've got my Rode Procaster XLR microphone that I'm speaking into. That's a dynamic mic, and I've got a simple little, I don't know, $2 pop filter on top of it, and that works great. Always, if you're using a dynamic mic or any other kind of mic, never go naked with your microphone. Always make sure that you've got some sort of pop filter, because you don't want those popping pea sounds to explode and sound unpleasant all over the mic. So next up, let's look at headphones. Why do we need headphones? Couple of reasons. You're going to need them for editing, and you're going to need them when you're recording remotely with guests. I don't recommend using earbuds. If you've got them, that's okay. But I don't recommend them because they leak a lot of sound. So when you're on a call with a guest or your co-host, when they're speaking, that sound is more likely to be picked up by your microphone because those little earbuds, they're only small and they don't sit that snugly in your ears. So they will leak a little bit of sound. The microphone will pick up some of that sound and it will send it back out through your microphone. So it's always best to go for closed back headphones. And I'll make some recommendations in a tick. I definitely don't recommend AirPods or any other Bluetooth wireless headphones. The reason for that simply being that they create extra lag. If you're talking to someone online, you're already dealing with a little bit of internet lag. It can sometimes be half a second, it can sometimes be a little bit more. If you're using AirPods or any other kind of Bluetooth headphones, you're adding extra delay, which reduces the spontaneity of your conversation, which makes them a little bit less natural and a bit more stilted. And then that just makes your editing life a lot harder. So definitely get some wired headphones. As I said, in-ear headphones or on-ear headphones are better. So those, cans. I'm sure you've seen singers with those big old cans. You see some people walking around high streets with them as well. Those kind of things are much better because they're much less likely to leak sound, and they tend to be much more comfortable for wearing over long periods. They're a great idea to wear when you're editing. It's always good to edit audio using headphones because you're going to hear it much more closely to how your listener is going to hear it. And it will mean that you'll pick up on subtle sounds that you might not hear if you're just editing it by listening through your speakers. If you are using any kind of like the Bose Quiet Comfort headphones, or again, if you are using AirPods or AirPods Max that have got any kind of noise cancellation, turn that off because it's just going to interfere with your call and also with your editing again, because it's treating the sound around it, and so it's not creating a natural environment. So make sure that's turned off when you're recording and editing. And as I said, wired, however your headphones work, wired ones are always the best ones to go for. You can plug headphones into either of the microphones that I've recommended, and what that allows you to do is you can hear your voice back. You can also play your computer audio through your microphone and then thus into your headphones as well, which is great. So when you're having a Zoom call or you're recording with a guest over Squadcast or Riverside, then you plug your headphones into your microphone and you tell your computer to pipe the audio through your mic. So what that then does is it just means that any sound that would normally come out of your speakers will come out of your headphones, and you'll also hear your own voice. That's really handy so that you can check that you're on mic, that you're on axis, that you're speaking into the bit of the mic that you're meant to. You'll hear that yourself when you're listening back. So definitely wear headphones, plug them into your mic, nice and easy. So here are my couple of favorites. I've actually upgraded at the moment to Rode's recent pair of headphones as I record with you now. But the two I'm recommending are really, really great, long-running, stalwart podcast editing headphones. So my absolute favorites are the Sony MDR7506. Sony always has delightful names for its products, and headphones are no exception. These are kind of the ones you buy. These are just, if anyone's asking about podcast editing headphones, what do I recommend? I just go straight with these because they are simple and uncomplicated, and they will last you for a long time. I had them for 5 years. I still have them, and the only thing I've had to do is replace the ear cups, the little leather plushy bits inside, those big sort of plushy bits that you see right in the middle there. Those are the only things, and they're just a bit of fake sort of plasticky leather with a little bit of foam in them. And that's the only thing, because they get a little bit tatty because you wear them for a long time and you sweat into them. So that's the only thing, and they're pretty cheap to replace. So they're a great, really great pair of headphones that will last you a long time. If you don't want to stump quite that much, then you can go a little bit cheaper and go for the Audio Technica AT-HM20X. And these are perfectly decent pair of headphones as well. Audio Technica make great gear across the board. They make a lot of really good stuff. So you won't go far wrong with a pair of Audio Technicas. So your first bit of homework then is to go out and get yourself a microphone. If you've got something like a Blue Yeti or something like a Blue Snowball, something like that lying around, then by all means have a play with them. I don't recommend them because, again, all of these kinds of microphones, they benefit from you being nice and up close to them. The Yeti is a big, great hulking microphone that is, it's kind of a lot better if you've got multiple people all sat around that mic, because it can record from all sorts of different perspectives, but you're never going to get that closeness, that intimacy that we really seek, and that's where I'm trying to sort of get you to. So if you're okay with the sort of the sunk cost of that, if you haven't bought it special, then I would look into the Samson or the Rode. So pick yourself up a microphone. If you're going for the Samson or another dynamic microphone that doesn't have a pop shield, make sure you absolutely get a pop shield. That is not optional. Definitely get them, because you will notice the difference without it. And get yourself a pair of headphones if you need them. And then next up, we will look at the listener story, which is the way that we help ourselves and those around us understand who our podcast is for, what it's about, and how the listener benefits as a result of listening. So I'll see you over there.